Hello, it's me. Number 5. The mammoth had a mustache. The name mammoth comes from the Greek word mammalos, which means fat lips or fleshy. But when scientists first discovered the fossils of an extinct species, of mammoth in the Siberian permafrost in 1800, they thought that the creature must have had large breasts because of the name. They were wrong. It turns out that male mammoths had huge, protruding upper lips with very long guard hairs that formed a kind of handlebar mustache. This is obvious if you look at the reconstructed skull of a mammoth. But there was no way they could know this back in 1800. They didn't even have the rest of the skeleton. The only thing they had to go on was the name and the teeth, which are shaped like scoops. And you can't really tell much about a creature's body from its teeth, just that it was a herbivore. Number 4. A mammoth could weigh as much as 5 elephants. Woolly mammoths were enormous. These hairy giants weighed between 6 and 8 tons and stood up to 12 feet tall at the shoulder. That's almost twice the height of an average human. Just imagine trying to pet one of those. If you have the unfortunate experience of being trampled by a mammoth, you wouldn't even have time to scream. You'd be dead before you hit the ground. As far as we can tell, woolly mammoths were the largest land mammals that ever lived, even bigger than modern-day elephants. And yet, they were still able to reproduce. It was hard to imagine how 2 mammoths could possibly make a baby, since it would take a lot of trunk space, if you know what I mean. No. 3. Woolly mammoth fur. We know that woolly mammoths were furry, because we've found fossilized skin with hair still attached to it. But the weird thing is that their fur wasn't all that different from modern-day horses. In fact, their underfur was pretty much identical to modern horses, except for the color. Mammoth underfur was a rich chocolate brown. Scientists think that the outer layer of their fur was longer and coarser, and may have been similar to the fur of a bison. The reason mammoths had such thick fur was to keep them warm in the freezing cold environments they lived in. They also had a thick layer of body fat that helped them survive the Ice Age. And yes, they did have tusks, big ones. But surprisingly, scientists don't agree on what they were used for. Some believe that mammoths used their tusks to strip bark off trees, while others believe they used them to clear snow and ice from vegetation. Still others say they were used for display and attracting mates. The truth is, we don't know. But tusks are definitely cool. And speaking of tusks, no. 1. When mammoth tusks were used as slingshots, as we said, mammoth tusks could get pretty long, up to 16 feet. That's almost twice the length of a basketball court. The Inuit people of northern Canada and Greenland used to use mammoth tusks as slingshots. They would attach a line to the tip of the tusk, and then wrap another line around the base of the tusk. Then they would load the tusk like a bow and arrow and release it. The projectile would zoom through the air and hopefully hit its target. Now this seems a little dangerous to us, but remember, these people didn't have guns, so they had to use what they had. Besides, they probably didn't aim for people. They most likely used the tusk slingshot to hunt seals and other animals. No. 2. Mammoth Step. Scientists recently found out that there was a whole ecosystem of giant animals during the Pleistocene epoch, which lasted from 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago. This ecosystem was called the Mammoth Step. Back then, the Earth was covered in vast grasslands, and these grasslands stretched all the way from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, of course. There were other large animals living in the Mammoth Steppe besides the woolly mammoth. There were also giant bison, wild horses, a type of bear the size of a polar bear, and saber-toothed cats. Humans hunted these creatures to extinction. But what's weird is that the Mammoth Steppe was also a desert. Today you can't imagine anything living in a desert besides a cactus and a roadrunner. But back then, a huge variety of animals thrived in the desert, and yes, they were all huge. Now it's time for some shameless self-promotion. Did you know that we have a podcast? Well, we do. It's called the Top 5 Podcast, and we talk about all kinds of cool stuff on it. Like, for example, recently we did an episode on the weirdest animal migrations. You should check it out. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts. Number 1, the shocking reason why mammoths went extinct. Most scientists agree that the main reason why mammoths went extinct was because of humans. Yes, we are to blame for the death of these gentle giants. We hunted them to extinction. Simple as that. But there's more to the story. humans weren't the only predators of mammoths. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and short-faced bears also lived during the late Pleistocene epoch. The problem is that these animals couldn't have hunted mammoths effectively. Even if you had a pack of 50 dire wolves attack a mammoth, the mammoth would probably just trample them to death. It would be like a pack of chihuahuas trying to take down a grizzly bear. So who killed the mammoths? Was it climate change? Surprisingly, no. As we said, mammoths were hairy and had a thick layer of body fat, so they could have survived the ice age if humans hadn't wiped them out. Maybe they all died from some kind of disease. Again, no. Scientists have found evidence that mammoths were dying out even before humans arrived on the scene. So what is it? It turns out that the real reason mammoths went extinct is because they were too darn big. Okay, not too big, exactly. It's just that mammoths needed a lot of food to survive, like way more food than other animals. This is why they went extinct. When the Mammoth Step began to shrink and turn into desert, there wasn't enough food to go around. The mammoths simply starved to death. Thanks for watching. Bye.